Welcome, everyone, to the Ready for the Draft podcast. I am your host, Gregg Schutze. This is episode 8 of the 2024 podcast series where we take a look at the draft-eligible prospects and get you ready for the NFL draft. And I'll tell you what, week 1, lots of fireworks. We finally have that in the books. College football season is off and running. And I'll tell you what, we started the weekend off with Colorado pulling off a meteoric upset over TCU. Over 80 brand new players wearing the white, the gold, and the black prime, getting the job done, taking down TCU, number 17 ranked TCU. This was a team that, look, they were the national runner-up a season ago, but this is not the same team. You have to replace your top 2 running backs. Kendre Miller, one of those. You have to replace 3 receivers, including Quentin Johnston. You're replacing Max Duggan at quarterback. And then on the defensive side of the football, there really wasn't any pass rush. You had Dylan Horton, you had D. Winters putting pressure on the quarterback a season ago, and then you had Trey Hodges-Tomlinson on the back end of the defense, obviously no longer there as well. And so this was a completely different team, really led by Johnny Hodges and Jamoy Hodge, really struggling to put consistent pressure on the quarterback, on Shedeur Sanders. And look, Shedeur Sanders has really emerged. He and Travis Hunter both have emerged in the Heisman discussion. Never really on the radar completely because of the fact that Colorado was not expected to win very many games just because of so many new additions. But I'll tell you what, of all the teams that had all the new additions coming through the transfer portal, Colorado, good Lord. Shedeur Sanders, 38 of 47, 510 yards, 4 touchdowns. This was the guy that you saw just the precision passing, his ability to manipulate the pocket and really read the defense and put the ball where he needed to for his receivers. Travis Hunter playing over 120 plays, had 11 receptions for 119 yards, an incredible interception, making a tremendous break on the football, then that diving pick. I think with Travis Hunter, he's only a sophomore, but man, he's really a special talent. Can he keep up this level of play the entire season? I mean, we saw Shohei Ohtani being able to pitch and hit. We've seen also what the wear has done to his body, that elbow surgery, a second UCL injury, possibly having to have another Tommy John. You worry about guys being able to play both sides of the football. If he plays over 120 plays in every single game, then you start worrying about Travis Hunter and that overall health. Yes, youth is on his side, but at some point, something's got to give. But that said, Shedeur Sanders, again, the precision passing, the ability to look off the safety and then fire a target, man coverage, one-on-one, take advantage of the matchups. I thought that was exceptional. He didn't really look to run. We know that he's a good athlete, but he didn't really need to leave the pocket. The manipulation within the pocket, you saw the athleticism there. The arm strength is absolutely there, being able to make the throws to all 3 levels of the field. This is a guy, he's a junior. Remember, he did play 2 years there at Jackson State, so this is maybe his first real action in an FBS play. But man, this is a third-year starter, with his dad, with Dion. And he's a guy that's definitely emerged in the Heisman conversation. And then this is also a draft where the number 3 quarterback is really up for grabs. I think we'll talk about Michael Penix Jr. and the performance that he had there at Washington. I think obviously Riley Leonard with a stamp. We'll talk about Duke here in just a second as well. But Bo Nix is going to be in that conversation. There are going to be a lot of guys that are going to be vying for that number 3 quarterback spot. And I'll tell you what, Shedeur Sanders with that performance has definitely moved into that consideration. But here's the thing. He's got, $3.8 million in NIL money coming. And he has a chance to play another year with not only his dad, but with Travis Hunter, who basically Dion has called his other son. So would he pass up on the chance to play again with his dad and with Travis Hunter? And look, he'll be able to say that he played an FCS play, and then in the Pac-12, and then moving on to the Big 12. So he'll have 3 different, when you look at the tape, he'll have matchups against 3 different conferences. So, that's something that not a whole lot of quarterbacks will be able to say either. So I think from a development standpoint, it may behoove him to come back for another year. But man, that was one heck of a coming out party, if you will, in the Pac-12 with Shedeur Sanders. And then the weekend closed with Duke and an impressive upset win over Clemson. And I'll tell you what, Riley Leonard was a story. Yes, he was 17 to 33, 175 yards, The receivers didn't really give him any favors. He was they were dropping some passes, but you saw the velocity on the football. You saw his ability to escape in the pocket. I mean, come on, that 45-yard run that he had. Ultimately, Barrett Carter was there, had a chance to wrap him up, and he was able to muscle his way through that down the sideline, ends up scoring. Riley Leonard, look, when you talk about completion percentage, this wasn't his best game. I think the receivers, obviously, Jalen Calhoun especially had a few drops. Jordan Moore, I think, had one as well. Needed to get some help there from that receiver position. But, you look at you always go back to Anthony Richardson now with this discussion about accuracy. Anthony Richardson was below 60% for the year and was still taken with the number 3 overall pick by the Indianapolis Colts because of the athleticism, the traits, and the ability for Shane Steichen to be able to develop him. You look at a guy like Riley Leonard, he's one of those guys that could potentially be in that conversation as well. So tremendous play. I thought that he got some help there from Graham Barton on the offensive line. Look, this is a guy who has 5 position versatility. I think he can play the pivot. He can kick inside to guard. He's also proven against Clemson that he can play that left tackle position. And so I think that versatility is obviously going to help his draft stock. He's a guy that's not getting out of the second round, if you ask me. Defensively, Dwayne Carter holding the point of attack, a guy that's showing that he can get off the football and get penetration early on in the middle of that defense. And then R.J. Oben, the son of the left tackle, Roman Oben, 3 tackles in the game, but that sack, just the athleticism, seeing him come off the edge, the bend, the hands, the ability to chop down on the offensive tackle's hands and be able to turn the corner and get to the quarterback. Kate Klubnik really had struggled. I think Clemson's in trouble because they don't have a go-to receiver. Antonio Williams, Bo Collins, Adam Randall didn't really step up. Jake Brittingstool, look, Davis Allen was a weapon for DJ Uiagalelei a season ago. Where was Jake Brittingstool? Why did he only have 1 reception? Garrett Riley's going to have to answer for that. Will Shipley still looks like a top 5 back to me. 17 carries, 114 yards, 6 catches for 29 yards and a touchdown. Did have a drop, concentration drop, was looking to get upfield before he hauled it in. But you see the elusiveness, you see his ability to run between the tackles and on the outside. So to me, I still look at Will Shipley as a guy who is, he's a top 5 running back. I think there's no doubt about that. I think in terms of who my number 1 running back is, I think that question has pretty much been answered, at least to start out the season, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But look, over the course of week 0 and week 1, I've been pretty busy watching games. I've gotten to sit down and watch the full entirety of a ton of games. We're talking about 35 total games. That's 16 on Saturday alone. And if you're talking about the FBS programs, 133 in all, I've already watched 67 of them. That's over half through week 1. So I've got my work cut out to try to get through the remainder, but the remaining 66. But I've made some pretty good progress watching a lot of game film. This is what I enjoy. This is what I love to do. Obviously, I didn't get a chance to really study a lot of the all 22, but still, these are my observations. These are things that I was able to pick up as I watched each and every one of these games over the weekend. And if we start just taking a look at some of the different performances as we talk about it, Brennan Armstrong, NC State, that Thursday night game, we talked about it before. I thought as a passer he really struggled, but we saw the athleticism, 96 yards on the ground and a couple of touchdowns. Graham Mertz, I think he really struggled with the chemistry with the receivers, just really off. Any of the back shoulder throws, any of the throws down the field, just really struggled with any of the timing. Did have 333 yards and a touchdown, but man, I think Florida really in trouble there at the quarterback position. Jeff Sims, everyone hyped him up there at Nebraska. I didn't really understand the hype. Just 114 yards and a touchdown, but 3 interceptions, costly mistakes. 2 of those to Tyler Nubin. And look, we talk about safeties. We could talk about one right now. Tyler Nubin, to me, is the top safety in the draft. This was a guy that was doing a great job as the deep safety. He was playing in the box. He was covering guys in the slot. Nubin reading the quarterback, making breaks on the football, making a play. That was, I thought, was one of the more impressive performances on the back end of the defense in any of the games that I watched. Friday, you got to see Tyler Van Dyke. He's back, 17 of 22 for 201 yards, touchdown. Did throw an interception on the day to Michael Dowell. But I think Tyler Van Dyke, if he can stay healthy, consistency is going to be the key. But I think this was definitely a step in the right direction. We weren't sure who the receivers were going to be, if they were going to step up for him. I thought that question was answered as well. So I thought that was really a nice performance overall. As we continue, Dillon Gabriel, Oklahoma, I mean, good Lord. I mean, they just abused Arkansas State. And Dillon Gabriel, look, he's got the pressure of the freshman, Jackson Arnold, and he delivered. This is the guy that was hitting his receivers in stride. Putting in, he didn't put too much air under his throws. There were a couple of errant passes, but for the most part, Dillon Gabriel looked dialed in, and that's going to bode well for Oklahoma with their run. Joe Milton, Tennessee, 21 of 30, 201 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. You see the effortless delivery, just the cannon, rocket of an arm. But this is a guy I think that still struggles with the accuracy. I think the consistency just isn't there. Look, he's got the arm. He reminds you of. It's hard not to compare him to Anthony Richardson because of the size comparison and the rocket arm. The arm talent. I think Joe Milton probably has the best overall arm talent of any quarterback in this year's draft. But the question really remains is just how consistent he can be. And he's running an offense. Look, Josh Heupel, we talked about the same thing with Hendon Hooker. This is an offense that's a little bit more simplified with the splits and everything. But Milton, hey, they got it done against Virginia, 49-13. But I think Tennessee is really going to have to watch Milton's play as they progress into the SEC. Just really needs to get some of that dialed in. I thought Cade McNamara, kind of an up and down game. Overall, I think 191 yards and a couple of touchdowns, missed some receivers, overthrows, needs to kind of get that cleaned up and dialed in a little bit better. But Washington, good Lord, made a statement against Boise State in Seattle, 56-19. Michael Penix Jr., 29 of 40, 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. This is a guy, look, he's not very mobile. I think mobility is going to be a concern. This is a guy that I think from within the pocket he can manipulate it, but really it's all about the arm talent. This is a guy that doesn't really have to step into his throws, and he's throwing him 40 yards down the field to the wide side on a line and hitting his receivers in stride. Rome Odunze, this was a guy, 7 catches, 132 yards on the outside, had a touchdown. There was a fumble as well, but when you watch Rome Odunze, he was just so quick coming off the line. I think that was one of the things that really jumped off the film to me. But the guy that really had the game was Jalen McMillan, 3 catches, 101 yards, a couple of touchdowns, just running post, just getting open. Also got a carry, took that around the edge for a score. I think the fact that Jalen Polk has been stepping up as well on the outside is going to bode well for Jalen McMillan. I think he's one of the best slot receivers in the draft this year. Ohio State, kind of a funky game, right? 23-3. Kyle McCord really struggled to kind of get going. We really didn't see a whole lot out of Marvin Harrison in this game. The one big play that he would have had, it was a 24-yard touchdown down the sideline. Ultimately, the corner forces him out, kind of shoves him to the sideline, and rather than really kind of fight to stay in bounds, he steps out of bounds and is the first one to touch it. Illegal touching called on the play, so that 24-yard touchdown was called back. But still, there's no question that Marvin Harrison Jr., they just need to get consistent play out of the quarterback spot, and I think Kyle McCord, as the season progresses, he'll get better and better. But look, Jamar Chase didn't even play his junior season, and we see what he's been able to do. So I'm not worried about Marvin Harrison Jr. one bit. Wisconsin in Madison, 38-17 winners. Tanner Mordecai, 24-31, 189 yards, touchdown, couple of picks, erratic play. Really kind of struggled there. But here's the thing. The reason why I'm bringing him up is maybe his go-to target, because they really are lacking a receiver on the outside. When you think of Luke Fickell, you think of his offense, especially there with Desmond Ridder, Alec Pierce, you have Tyler Scott, you also have Trey Tucker. All 3 of those guys in the NFL as receivers, all got drafted. What does Wisconsin have? They've got Bryson Green, they've got Chimere Dike, Will Pauling, Skylar Bell dropped a surefire big play. They're lacking a big play receiver. So Braylon Allen may end up being that guy. 7 catches. It was almost like the coaching staff, knew that Braylon Allen needed to start showing that he could catch the football out of the backfield, and he was able to do that. Showed some pretty nice hands, niftiness, catching the football out of the backfield, but then 141 yards and a couple of touchdowns. This is a guy that's looking to slim down, and he looks chiseled. This guy, he's barely 18, 19 years old, and just looks like a man among boys. You see the physicality between the tackles. You see his ability to run away from from defenders as well. To me, Braylon Allen is the number one running back. If you're talking about anybody in the first round, especially if they're going to make it a point to make Allen the focal point of the passing game, especially because these receivers just aren't getting the job done, especially against a team like Buffalo where you would expect to see more of that. To me, I look at Braylon Allen. He's going to be a guy that's going to continue to impress, to continue to ball out. He's a big kid too. That's the thing that is so impressive. I think some people have said that he kind of lumbers with the way that he runs. I don't think so. I see a guy that is pretty smooth as an athlete. I see him setting up his blocks well, very patient. It comes off that block. You see the lateral cuts, and then being able to take it down the sideline. 6'2", 235. Dude's just a beast. And then if we're talking about beasts, and obviously we have to talk about the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams. This is a dude who, he made it look easy against Nevada. 18 of 24, 319 yards, 5 touchdowns, 66-14, Trojans roll. But this is a guy, he just made it just look so easy. He started 4 of 4 for 84 yards and a touchdown on the opening drive of the game. Now there was a play where he scrambles to his right, and he's looking down the field, and it looked like he was going to throw the football away, but Dorian Singer winds up getting behind the defense, kind of a scramble drill, ends up throwing the touch pass down the sideline, dropping it in the bucket. Here's the thing, the situational awareness at times, I think he struggles. He wants to attack the sideline instead of taking the middle of the field. For some reason, he always wants to attack the outside, and I think he still struggles with the accuracy down the sideline, outside the numbers. Still see some of that, but the athleticism. This was a guy, he steps up, he steps to the right, steps to the left, back to the right. Just the way that he's able to manipulate the pocket. It's Patrick Mahomes-esque. Another guy, Aaron Rodgers, was so great at being able to manipulate the pocket and stay within the confines of the pocket. I think that's one of the things that Caleb Williams really has worked on. You see him going through his progressions, looking right, looking left, delivering the football to Marshawn Lloyd, took the ball right up the gut. Really tremendous touch down the seam to Marshawn Lloyd. 54-yard reception on that play. And I'll tell you what, Marshawn Lloyd struggled a little bit. I think in week 0, I think he was rushing in some of his runs. But man, this was a guy that once you let him go, and was much more comfortable. You saw the speed out of the backfield. You saw the balance, the contact balance, the power to his game. I think Marshawn Lloyd's only going to continue to get better there for the Trojans. The Trojans rolled, a lot of the different receivers there. Zachariah Branch just the one catch for 22 yards at the beginning of the game, but a guy that was able to get open on a corner route, easy touch throw over there for Caleb Williams. The offensive line still struggling a bit. Jonah Monheim really needs to dial in and get things together because there are a lot of pass rushers that SC is going to be dealing with, and you don't want to have Caleb Williams running around for his life all day long. I thought Cam Ward had a nice game there for the Cougars over Colorado State. 50-24 was the final. 461 yards, 3 touchdowns, spread the football around quite a bit. Lincoln Victor was his number 1 target, 160 plus yards on the day. Lincoln Victor looks like a guy that could potentially work his way into a role in the slot. I think that's one of the things that kind of jumps out for me as I watch him play is he's a sudden guy. I don't know that he'll get drafted, but he's a guy that could end up working his way onto a roster because of his ability to work from the slot. But Cam Ward, excellent pocket presence, feels his pressure to the right, steps up to avoid, moves back to the right, fires a strike down the field. The pocket manipulation was absolutely there. Effortless throws to the wide side of the field, and it was arriving in a hurry. So I thought Cam Ward also with a nice performance there. Frank Harris really struggled for UTSA. That's really why they lost to Houston 17-14. Threw 3 interceptions on the day, just some ill-advised throws. I think the fact that DeCorian Clark wasn't there definitely hurt. Joshua Cephas, I thought, really got to showcase his ability as a bigger receiver with 9 catches at 123 yards. But Drew Aller, only a sophomore, but this kid is going to be a guy that we'll be talking about next year's draft. 21-29, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns. A guy that just, Keandre Lambert-Smith looks like he's going to be their go-to receiver. A guy that continued to get open for him down the field. So that's a guy that you'll want to keep an eye out for. They really handed it to West Virginia. Drake Maye, I think the other quarterback in the discussion for the number 1 overall selection. And look, Caleb Williams, his father's already come out and said if they don't like the situation with the number 1 overall pick, he may come back. And he's got over $2 million in NIL money, so if he comes back for another year, plays with the Trojans again, I don't think there's going to be any worry. I mean, especially they're going to the Big Ten, so there's potential for even more money coming through. Drake Maye could potentially slide into that number 1 overall spot. I don't think he did anything to dissuade anyone from that. 24 of 32, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have 2 interceptions on the day. But again, this is a guy that just looks so smooth, effortless, making throws to all 3 levels of the field and just absolutely dropping a dime in. There were a couple of plays. There was a slot fade to Kobe Paysour, who was wide open. Receiver started to kind of bend to the sideline, beaten 2 defensive backs, got behind them, didn't really give the receiver a chance, threw the ball 30 yards down the field, but just threw the ball out of bounds, didn't give him really a play on there. But I think the picks, those were a couple of plays where he needed to calm down. I think he was much more effective in the first half, 16 to 20, 177 yards and a touchdown. But there was a play where he got kind of bailed out, where the DB kind of lost track of the ball. John Copenhaver, the tight end, was in the end zone, ended up kind of going to his knees to haul it in. 2 defenders in his face, and I think Drake Maye needs to watch, trusting that arm strength just a little bit too much and trusting the arm and just kind of throwing it up. That can get himself into trouble. But he dropped back to pass. He was on the right hash at the 41, rolled to his right to get rid of it to Gavin Blackwell at the numbers, running a crossing route. Threw a little bit too far to the inside to his receiver, O'Donnell Fortune, the corner, undercut the route for the interception. And then later on, drops back to pass. So it was kind of a back shoulder throw to Kobe Paysour up the, I think it was on the outside now that I think about it. A little bit too far up the field, caused Kobe to kind of reach for it back to the inside, off of his hands, intercepted by Kawan Banks. So a couple of throws that were kind of uncharacteristic of typical Drake Maye. They weren't, weren't very clean, weren't all that accurate, and so that's definitely some cause for concern for sure. But can he just get things dialed in and wrapped up? That's really the big question mark. When he was under pressure, that's really where a lot of this stuff started to happen. So they got to clean things up on the offensive line for North Carolina for sure. Tulane looked good against South Alabama, 37-17. Michael Pratt, good Lord, 14 of 15 for 294 yards, 294 yards and 4 touchdowns. And this guy, man, I swear, he was throwing posts left and it seemed like 47-yard post, 48-yard pass play, and he was hitting guys in stride, tremendous arm strength. This guy, don't overlook him. I think he's underrated. I think people are really sleeping on him. Look, just as an example, they're on the Jaguars 47-yard line. Sees Keys on the outside, up the seam. There was a switch release, wide open. Rather than trying to gun it to his receiver, puts air under it, allowing him to kind of catch it in stride. Makes a couple of defenders miss for a 47-yard touchdown. But just understanding the situation and putting enough air under that to just kind of allow his man to create with the football. There's a 4-yard whip route to Chris Brazel. Made sure that he was getting some separation and then able to put the football right on his man. So that was another play that we got to see. But the arm strength, being able to put the ball down the field in a hurry, that was something that really stood out to me. I think Michael Pratt, the athleticism as well, 11 carries for 39 yards. He was putting his foot in the ground and making guys miss in the open field. So I'm definitely impressed with Michael Pratt. He's a guy that should be a top 10 quarterback that we're talking about, and I don't think he's getting enough credit that he deserves. Keaton Slovis again, for BYU. They played Sam Houston, 20 of 33, 145 yards. Another guy like Graham Mertz, where just the accuracy wasn't there, the timing wasn't there. Really struggled to get anything going. That offense was kind of anemic. 14-0 was the final. They just struggled to get anything going, and so that's obviously cause for concern for Kalani Sitake. DJ Uiagalelei had a great game against San Jose State, 20 of 25 for 239 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had a couple of scores on the ground. You saw the athleticism, you saw the physicality, with which he runs. This is a guy that I think, is really trying to rebuild his image as a quarterback, because basically he was benched in favor of Cade Klubnik. And I thought he's doing a good job of doing that. And he really isn't asked to be the guy to create everything. Damian Martinez, his sophomore running back, has definitely been helping that. But then I think the offensive line, the confidence to play behind an offensive line now is phenomenal. We'll talk about those two tackles here in just a moment. You get to LSU and Florida State. And look, Jaden Daniels showcased some arm strength, being able to throw to the wide side of the field, 15 yards on a line, 346 yards, a touchdown. Also had an interception on the day. 15 carries for 64 yards. He may be a better runner than he is a passer. I mean, just the elusiveness, his ability to put his foot in the ground and get up the field. But I think the game really was about Jordan Travis emerging as one of the better quarterbacks in this year's draft class. 23 of 31, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns and an interception. Also scored while on the ground. And with Jordan Travis, what I saw from him, taking that leap, being able to get out and roll and keep those eyes down the field and being able to locate that receiver and put it on him. There was a couple of fade passes to Keon Coleman that were money. Did have a couple of drops from his receivers. I think Johnny Wilson had a couple of concentration drops. There's one by Jaheim Bell as well. Otherwise, the completion percentage would have been a lot better. 14 straight game with a touchdown. So obviously that's something that's impressive there. But being able to drive those throws. He had Johnny Wilson on a dig route and being able to put his foot in the ground. That back foot and then just fire that strike, drive the football, being able to do that, trusting his receivers to go up and make plays on the football as well. I think Jordan Travis is definitely maturing as a quarterback. And if I'm a Florida State fan, I have to be looking at the way Jordan Travis played and thinking we may have another Florida State quarterback making his way to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. You think Charlie Ward, you think Chris Wenke. Could this be a year that Jordan Travis ends up hearing his name called as a finalist? Not that he'd win, but as a finalist. So we recapped a lot of the different games that I've watched and the quarterback play in a lot of the games. But really what I kind of want to do is kind of go game for game now and really starting with that Utah game that I didn't get a chance to really cover in the last podcast and talk about some of the guys that I really kept an eye on during those games and kind of talk about their play. So we'll go ahead and start with that Utah game and 24-11 winners over Florida. And I'll tell you what, the score didn't really I think it shows that it was a lot closer than it really was. I think this was a game that never really felt to be too out of hand for the Utes. The physicality that you saw from Utah really was something that just kind of jumped out from the jump, right? And the guy that I was really watching on the offensive line was Sataoa Laumea, the 6'4", 311-pound junior offensive tackle. Maybe a guard at the next level, so I think he offers some versatility. 33 career starts, very physical at the point of attack, able to drive the defensive tackle back and then driving him into the ground. Look to attack Princely Umamilan on the edge there, the defensive end, the explosive D end there for Florida. Power off the edge, violent punch, really disrupting that rush pattern that he had, the rush path. I thought that was tremendous. And then if you're talking about defensively for Utah, then Cole Bishop has to be the guy that you're talking about. Incredibly impressive, a guy that was lining up all over the field. You saw him primarily wanting to play in the box, flying downhill, wanting to make a big hit. Excellent range, getting over to Graham Mertz, who was running on a 3rd and 12. A big hit, 1 yard shy of the first down, jars the ball free, and ultimately goes out of bounds. Walked up late on the line of scrimmage, speed off the edge, able to run through the block of the running back Trevor Etienne and get in to drop Graham Mertz for a sack, even as he was trying to escape the pocket. 11 tackles along with that sack. Cole Bishop, to me, is a guy that, even though he's only a junior, he's a guy that we should be talking about as one of the top safeties in this year's draft class. With Prince Umamilan, I thought there's an arm over off the ball, beats the left tackle to the inside, gets to the running back in the backfield, tried to tackle Jaquindon Jackson just a little bit too high and missed the tackle there. I thought there was one thing too, really explosive getting off the football, ran himself into a couple of double teams, but you saw his ability to attack the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle with an inside move. So I thought that was something that was, for a Florida team that really struggled, I thought his play was encouraging. With Minnesota, again, we talk about Tyler Nubin. Let's talk about that interception that ultimately led to the victory. Kind of alluded to the fact that he was all over the field. But let's talk about Tyler Nubin and the fact that 4 interceptions a season ago, 2 picks in 1 game, but that second pick, minute to play, tied at 10, single high safety, reads Jeff Sims' eye, staring down the wide receiver, running a slant, able to jump the route for the pick, and we know that Dragan Kisic ends up kicking that game-winning field goal for the Gophers. Justin Wally, look, a team captain there at the cornerback position, the junior, 5'11", 190. This dude is fiery, he's feisty, he's going to run the alley and isn't afraid of contact. He's going to come up and hit you. 5 minutes to play. Running back coming up the middle of the field, able to punch the football free. Gophers recovered, down 10-3. So a guy that can make plays, also has the ball skills, being able to high point the football, being able to get his hand in and make a play. And you see really good hips, being able to turn and run with the receiver. So I think Justin Wally is one of those cornerbacks that I think should be keeping everyone should be keeping an eye on. Michigan State and Central Michigan, I think for the Chippewas, you've got Bert Emanuel Jr., a redshirt freshman, so he's not really eligible for this year's draft, but he's a guy, just the athleticism. You want to see if he can develop into a quarterback. That's really the big question mark that I have for him right now because, look, only 87 yards passing, but the athleticism is what really draws everyone's attention, and you really want to watch and see what his progression is going to look like. Jacoby Windman for Michigan State, their 8 tackles, did have a sack. This is a guy that shows speed to get to the outside, shows the range, and then also likes to rush the passer coming off the edge as well on third downs. More of an edge rusher in that way. Cal Halliday, the emotional leader of the defense, I think he reads the flows, plants, heads down for the quarterback, diagnoses the plays well. I think that's one of the things that you saw, chasing down Bert Emanuel, tripping him up for a tackle for loss. Also had an interception in the game, 10 tackles, a tackle for loss. Only a junior, so he could be coming back for another year. So he's a guy, though, that I think I really want to keep an eye on and see how he continues to progress at that inside linebacker position. Mentioned Tyler Van Dyke playing behind an offensive line that I thought impressed. Zion Nelson is still battling the injuries, but Matt Lee, the center, 6'4", 295. This is a guy that I think is a top 3 center in this year's draft class. Just 3 pressures of 14 starts, 2022 at UCF. Named a team captain, hasn't been with the team very long, but you see the punch at the point of attack. Tunnel screen to the receiver Colby Young, runs down the side. Didn't really quite get to the DB, but was able to get in the way to allow the receiver to get down the field. You see reach blocks in the ground game, physical at the point of attack, shooting those hands in and driving guys away from the quarterback. Good athleticism, pulling around, athletic to really get out there. Unfortunately, the running back, the freshman Mark Fletcher, didn't have the patience to wait for him to really set up the block, but you see the athleticism, that's evident. Javion Cohen, Alabama transfer, the guard, really a good job with the hands as well. Pop at the point of attack, stifling the rush of the defensive tackle in the ground game. You see the center of gravity, the ability to anchor, but then also keeping his hands inside in the run game to generate some movement there. We talked about the safety position in Tyler Nubin. Well, Cam Kitchens is another guy that we have to be talking about. 6', 205, a junior, free safety, made an early impact against the run, playing in the box, coming off the edge, dropping the running back in the backfield. There's another play to the perimeter. Akeem Mesidor chases down the running back from behind as he was wrapping him up. Kitchens runs the alley, drills the running back with a huge hit, knifing in, dropping the running back, behind the line of scrimmage. Pass thrown to the perimeter into the boundary, flows to the ball, delivers a big hit on the receiver, Gage Larvadan, on the edge, 2 yards shy of a first down. So he was literally all over the place. Only had 3 tackles, but don't just look at the stats. This guy literally was flying all over the place. Was really the standout performer on defense for Miami. I was waiting to really see what Leonard Taylor was going to do. You saw him taking on double teams in the middle of the defense, holding his ground, able to get an arm free to kind of slow up the running back, allowing the safety to end up making the play ultimately after a gain of just 1 yard. expecting him to have more of an impact as the season continues to progress. Louisville and Georgia Tech. This was the game where I thought Ashton Gelati coming off the edge. You saw the athleticism there, the ability to use that swim move and get into the backfield. Gelati, again, another guy who's only a junior. So a lot of these guys are guys that could potentially come back for another season. But I thought he did a really good job using his hands. I think that's another thing that really jumped out. But how about Jamari Thrash? Here's a receiver that's going to kind of fly under the radar, 6'1", 185, all Sun Belt performer last year, led the Sun Belt receiving from Georgia State. Shows up and absolutely shows out. A guy that catches the ball at about 6 yards, plants, breaks the tackle at the corner, reverses field back to the left, shows the speed to pick up a gain of 23 yards, hitch and go on the outside for a 20-yard gain. Safety came up on the corner blitz, ran right by the safety, catch over the top for the touchdown. Jamari Thrash is the guy to really be on the lookout for. 7 catches for 88 yards, 2 touchdowns there in Louisville's come from behind 39-34 victory over Georgia Tech and the Ramblin' Wreck. If you want to talk about the Stanford-Hawaii game, really, the play that you have to be talking about is David Bailey. And it's, the question really is being asked is, when are we going to get to see David Bailey at the next level? And the thing is he was a freshman All-American last year, so we have to wait another season before we can actually see the 6'3", 240-pounder in action for the draft. But you love his ability to use his hands to get off blocks, the speed coming off the edge, his ability to bend and come around, dipping under the pad level, excellent bend. You see the ankle flexion, his ability to launch at the quarterback, taking some just incredible angles to get to the quarterback, chopping down on the right tackle's hands off the edge, ripping through to clear, flattening out, getting to the quarterback for a sack. Had 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 6 total sacks. Really was the beast on defense for Stanford. 37-24, Stanford's going to get to take on USC. The other guy to really keep an eye out for is Benjamin Jurasic, the tight end. And this is a guy that I've kind of beaten up a little bit in past mock drafts because of his inability to block. He was a lead blocker on a run play by Ryan Butler. Climbed to the second level, locates Logan Taylor, got a shove to move him up the field to get about a 9-yard gain, kind of got in the way. That's really more or less what you see from Jurasic. Still struggles as a blocker, but 6'5", 235, his ability is in the passing game. You saw speed down the sideline, getting behind Logan Taylor and the safety on a 32-yard pass play down the sideline. Tracked the ball, extended forward over his head, toe tap along the sideline. You see the body control, tremendous ability to just adjust. Tight end wheel route on a flea flicker, adjust to the back shoulder throw, able to haul it in for a 32-yard touchdown. Really had the hands catch, arms extended over his head. Athletic guy. That's really going to be, Trojans are going to have their work cut out. They struggled covering the tight end. We saw what Dalton Kincaid did a year ago. Really get to see what's going to happen there with USC's defense. Can they cover a tight end? Because Jurasic is one of the nation's best and a guy that has a chance. Could he sneak in today too? Possibly. Probably more like a 4th rounder at this point, just based on the fact that he struggles as a blocker. We talked about Dylan Gabriel's play at the quarterback position for OU. I think they've got a number 1 receiver, though, in Andrell Anthony, the 6'1", 192-pounder. Legit deep threat, running post, running by the corners, extended, nice dive for a 45-yard pass play. Next play, there was a screen out to Drake Stoops. Gets a pancake block on the corner to spring him for a 10-yard touchdown. Tremendous athlete. I think Andrew Rain looked solid. Ran over the nose tackle Nate Marty on a 2-yard run up the middle, shot the hands into the D tackle. Really a flat back, just drove him right into the ground. Excellent leverage and power. Walter Rouse coming off of an injury, transfer from Stanford, just engulfing the defensive end and pass protection. You saw the leverage, the athleticism as well. Tyler Guyton on the right side, 6'7", 327. A lot of people are comparing him to Anton Harrison, who was the number 27 overall pick in the draft. Could Tyler Guyton be the same type of a player? You see the athleticism. He was a former D lineman at TCU, but the 6'7", 327, the length, you see that. He lined up at left tackle to start the second half, aggressive in the ground game. attacking the defensive end, uses the torque to kind of throw him down. Hands did get a bit high in pass protection, but he does reset them pretty well. You saw the movement skills as well. Did get called for a hold. The linebacker, Javante Mackey, coming off the edge, kind of hooked him a little bit. Rondell Bothroyd, we didn't get to see enough of him. Ethan Downs, Reggie Grimes as pass rushers. Arkansas State really struggled. I think the biggest thing that you saw from Ethan Downs, high motor guy. That's really the big thing that I have written here. Danny Stutzman looked much more comfortable in the defense, being able to flow and make plays in space. I thought there was a lot to like in Tennessee's 49-13 drubbing of the Virginia Cavaliers. And, Aaron Beasley on the defensive side of the football had a couple of pass breakups and a tackle for loss on the day. This guy flies around and makes plays. I think that's the bottom line. Tyler Barron had a nice game. 6'5", 260, the defensive end. Quick arm over, lining up. That's one of the things I noticed. He moved inside on third downs. Arm over to beat the center, blows up a run play for a tackle for loss. A lot of stunts were being run, chasing quarterbacks down. You saw a spin move, starts outside, back inside with the spin to get the quarterback in the pocket. Omari Thomas, 6'4", 320. The burst for a guy his size was absolutely impressive as well. I think those were things that definitely jumped off the film. Brew McCoy, strong, powerful on the outside. I think you definitely saw that, the physicality there. John Campbell, 6'5", 320 pounds. I think he transferred, I want to say, from Florida. Pulling around as a lead blocker for Jalen Wright. Physical at the point of attack. But I think really the big play that everyone should be talking about, I think it was a 2-yard run by Dylan Sampson. Run play into the end zone. Campbell takes his man, continued driving him through the end zone toward the stands, and ultimately dumps him right around where the cameraman kind of line up right there. Just an absolute dominant block. Just kept that leg drive and just kept on driving I think it was a defensive back all the way down. Jalen Wright looks like he could potentially be a stud there at the running back spot. 5'11", 210 pounds. Had 118 yards on the ground. Impressive burst up the middle. Runs through contact, spinning through contact as well. We saw the patience running, setting up his blocks as well. So I thought that was something that definitely jumped out to me. When you watch Iowa play, you want to be able to try to figure out who's going to be the guy to replace Jack Campbell in the middle of that defense, and I think they found that in Jay Higgins. This guy was literally everywhere. 6'2", 233 pounds, 16 tackles and a pass breakup. Cooper DeJean did give up a couple of pass plays in front of him. I think most of those, there really wasn't much yak at all. This guy is not afraid to come down and be physical, though. Had speed to run stride for stride. I think that's something else. The biggest thing was some of the comebacks, but it wasn't like, when Georgia, Keely Ringo would get picked on the outside, and with Ringo, there was a ton of, it seemed like he would get lost a lot of times. You saw Cooper DeJean driving on those balls, nearly got a hand in on a couple of those as he's diving in to make a play on the ball. So, I'm not too worried about DeJean. Offensively, look, Luke Lachey, 7 catches, 73 yards, a guy that can stretch the defense a little bit, uses that size and the length to his advantage. I thought that definitely showed itself there. With Washington, we've already talked about Odunze and McMillan. Those guys absolutely showed out. I think when you watch Troy Fashanu, the left tackle, we've said that this is a guy that's going to be likely a guard at the next level. I thought that was really what I saw there at Washington. This is a guy that you're expecting to see him really latch on guys. You saw the power in his hands. It's the punch to throw guys off, active hands, but he never really locked onto a guy. I didn't always see him moving his feet. He extended for a defensive end at the waist, really unable to kind of shove him up the field. Defensive end wound up dropping Sam Adams for a loss. Very quick to the second level, sealing off a linebacker to help spring the running back for some extra yards. But to me, I think Fashanu really looks like a guard at the next level. The big question mark is what are we going to see on defense? Will Olafosio, the inside linebacker, Eddie Olafosio, he hasn't played a full season, battled injuries. You saw his ability to rush the quarterback, getting around the center, getting his hands into the body of the running back, shoving Ashton Janty up the field, and then ultimately dropping the quarterback, Taylon Green, for the sack there. 6 tackles and a sack on the day. You wanted to see Braylon Trice and Zion Tupuola-Fatui get going. Really the biggest thing that you saw with Zion was what I saw was on the edge versus the run against Ashton. Ran right through his arm tackle. Did really kind of a poor job setting the edge. Seemed to be a little bit passive and on his heels. Braylon Trice, you see the power. He was looking to try to manhandle the tackle in front of him. And you didn't see him really have a plan, so he wasn't always able to get by his guy. When you did, you saw a left hand to the chest of the left tackle, able to get to the edge after shoving it back, flattening out, pressuring the quarterback in the pocket. So you did see some of that. It just wasn't with any consistency. Ohio State's game, we already talked about, Marvin Harrison and some of the struggles that took place there. Really more so on the quarterback side. I think with Emeka Egbuka, you see him eating up yards in a hurry with the speed, but the block on the perimeter helping to spring Travion Henderson, 6'1", 205. The junior is going to be a first rounder in my opinion. Donovan Jackson, 6'4", 320, those 36-inch arms, right? Sits down and anchors, extends those arms out. Defensive tackle really kept at a distance the entire time. What was funny was the D tackle tried to get his hands on him and tried to throw him aside. Jackson, the grip strength, unable to shake free and really just didn't move. So I thought that was really impressive as well. And look, Donovan Jackson and Matthew Jones are the veterans there. They had to break in 3 new starters: Josh Simmons at left tackle, Josh Fryer at right tackle, the Joshes at tackle, and Carson Hinsman at center. They're replacing some guys that are in the league now. And so, I thought that the line overall held up. And so those are guys that I think because of their play with the youngsters as things continue to go, I think that'll definitely help their draft stock as well, being able to showcase that they can be leaders of this group. Cade Stover, I thought, looked to be a better weapon as not only as a blocker for not only Emeka Egbuka, springing him on an end around, but also as a weapon up the seam. Ran a skinny post, beat the middle linebacker, makes a catch, turns and runs for a 49-yard gain, had 5 catches for 98 yards. Cade Stover, to me, top 10 tight end in this year's draft class. Denzel Burke, you saw him driving on the football, breaking up passes down the sideline. You saw the ball skills, able to drive on the football, get a hand in and knock the football away as well. You saw really good coverage on their best receiver, Indiana's Cam Camper. JT Tuimoloau, patient on the zone read, waited for the quarterback to pull it, then shoots to the quarterback and drops him. You saw the bull rush, driving the left tackle all the way in. You love the eyes as well. As a stand-up rusher, he reads the play, hops to his left, gets outside, then straight downhill to the quarterback, gets a hit on him. 4 tackles, a half tackle for loss. You're just waiting for him to explode again. And look, we haven't seen him really take over a game like he did against Penn State. And that's really the big question mark that you have with JT Tuimoloau is what type of player are you going to get game in, game out? Aaron Casey looks like a guy who could be a stud there for Indiana, 6'2", 235, team captain, 86 tackles and over 10 tackles for loss a season ago. This guy, he was shooting the A-gap, tripping up the running backs, stopping them for no game. You saw a throw underneath, playing in zone coverage, driving quickly on the receiver, Julian Fleming, no yak, just a 4-yard gain. Really showcasing his ability, 11 tackles and a tackle for loss to play the run game. And I think that's one of the things that you want to see. Can he drop back into coverage? That's the other question mark that you have. And I don't know that we have the answer just yet. This season, that's something that I think he's continuing to work on, and so I'll be curious to see kind of how that develops as the season progresses for Indiana. Sean Dolac, the linebacker there for Buffalo in their loss there against Wisconsin, very active. That was something that we saw. We led the FBS in solo tackles, so obviously you kind of expect that. He had 8 tackles and a tackle for loss, but also had an interception. Showed blitz, dropped into coverage, and as the receiver was running a crossing route, reading the receiver. Tanner Mordecai was reading the receiver. Never saw Dolac just kind of sitting right there. Fired the ball in, and Dolac was able to jump the route, pick it off, return it for 32 yards. Dolak, to me, is one of the more underrated linebackers. I thought Marcus Fuqua, the safety, was very physical against the run. He's, the other guy, look, 11 tackles on the day. If I had anything on Wisconsin's defense, I was really excited to see Muma Jongmeta, only 2 tackles on the day. He looked slow. I think, when he's going towards the sideline, the perimeter, he was a guy that, he comes downhill really well, but if you ask him to play laterally, that's where he struggles. And so that's really what I wanted to see from him. He can flow, short areas, but if you ask him to get to the sideline, that's where he struggles, gets in trouble. But Jack Nelson, the 6'7", 311-pound left tackle, pulling around, taking out defensive ends as a lead blocker for Braylon Allen. Easy kick slides, good lateral quickness as a pass protector. Edge rusher, did get the edge on him once, had to get a takedown, ended up getting called for a hold there. There was a Ches Malusi run for 89 yards, really caved in the left side, driving the defensive end down the line. Then he picks up Sean Dolak and seals him off to the inside, allowing Malusi to take off for a score. So to me, he's the guy that jumps out on film on the offensive line for Wisconsin. I mentioned USC. I've already talked about Caleb Williams at length. So, he's the guy. He's doing Caleb Williams things, making a lot of plays, but he's also leaving some plays out there on the field. He's doing a better job within the pocket, going through some progressions, but I think he still needs to continue to work on that. Really, that accuracy down the field, outside the numbers, that's where I think he still needs to work from within the pocket. I mentioned Jonah Monheim earlier, just to give you an idea. He was beaten by the defensive end, coming off the edge, able to keep coming around, found that he was giving chase, and defensive end ultimately was able to knock the football free from Caleb Williams, who had to fall on it and force a fourth down. Defensive end tries to make an inside move. He was able to slide, keep him in front. The question is Jonah Monheim the consistency? There's 2 to 3 plays in every game. And I say every game, just the 2 games, but against both San Jose State and Nevada, these aren't top-end defensive ends that he's going against either, where he's struggled at times. I think left tackle is going to be too much for him. Really, I've watched the athleticism. I think really he's probably best suited as a guard at the next level. That's really my take for him. I thought Jamil Muhammad, the defensive end, 6'1", 250, showed some pretty good speed. He's double teamed by the tight end, and the running back kind of rips through, shot between the two, gets to the quarterback, gets a sack, forces a punt. So I thought that was something that really stuck out. I thought Shane Lee had a great game. 6 foot, 245. They were missing 2 linebackers. Mason Cobb and Eric Gentry were both injured. And Shane Lee really had to step up. Tackett Curtis also gets called for a targeting penalty early on in the game. And the veteran, the team captain, the guy that came over from Bama, really looked at as more of a 2-down guy, a guy that can play the run, struggles against the pass. He was all over the field, had 10 tackles, was one of the better defensive players for the Trojans in the game. And then the other guy that obviously we have to talk about is Caleb Bullock. 6'3", 180 pounds, 5 tackles, a couple of pass breakups. You see the range over the top. That's the thing that's really ridiculous. The tight end, Laiatu Latu, was a big target. I think he's, 6'7" on the outside. Gets deep down the sideline versus Sierra Wright. Showed the range, though, to get over the top, get over there. Ultimately, ball thrown to the sideline. It was incomplete, but just his ability to get out and affect that pass. Had it been in bounds, he may have been able to make a play on it. Man-to-man on the perimeter, the receiver against Jacoby Covington, shows his range as a center fielder, read the play, comes over the top, elevated to break up the pass. Didn't ultimately pick it because it was 4th down and they would have lost 25 yards, so that was also a smart play on his part. You saw him flying downhill. There was a swing pass to the running back on 3rd and 3, trying to use the tight end block on the corner to get the first down. Bullock was able to come over and force him out a yard shy as well. So I think Kalen Bullock showcasing his ability there at the safety position and going to be one of the better safeties again in this year's draft. I think Nubin and Kinchins right now might be a little bit ahead of him in terms of the physicality. I think Nubin as a playmaker and the physicality, he's got him there. I think with Kinchins and Bullock's really showcased that he is the true unquestioned leader of that secondary for the Trojans. And so I want to see how that continues to progress. And I think those are going to be two guys that will be battling it out potentially to be that number 2 safety in this year's draft class. I mentioned Washington State against Colorado State. Was really waiting to see what would happen with Torrey Horton. That was going to be the big matchup for me, was Horton against Chow Smith-Wade. Really wanted to see what that matchup was going to look like. And with Torrey Horton, there was off coverage a couple of times, making plays in front of the defense. Really, the biggest thing that you saw from Horton was being able to sit down in the void of the defense. 9 catches for 81 yards. I thought the quarterback play they struggled. Both Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, and Cam Millen, the starter, really struggled to get anything going there offensively. So we'll have to see how Torrey Horton's year progresses. But look, this is a 1,000-yard receiver, so I'm expecting him to bounce back in a big way. Then Mohamed Kamara, look, he's 6'1", 250. You see the penetration getting into the backfield, able to disrupt the run. Fires off the line as a stand-up defensive end. He gets into the tight end. Quarterback vacates the pocket, comes off the block to pressure the quarterback, nearly throws a pick to the linebacker. Later on, rip move gets under the pad level of the left tackle, gets off the edge, flattens out in a hurry, knocks the ball free as he sacks Cam Ward. Forced fumbles, ultimately recovered by the Rams. So you see that explosiveness, 8 sacks from a season ago. He was the guy that I was looking forward to seeing play. You saw him coming off the edge. Horton didn't really wow you. It was just some solid play at the receiver position. I thought, Mohamed Kamara didn't see enough flash plays, but he did show the ability to get to the quarterback and get the sack. I think Brennan Jackson for Washington State, 6'4", 263 pounds. This guy, can get physical at the point of attack against the right tackle. Really bull rush, driving him back, and then getting to hand him to knock the pass down. Jaden Hicks is the tall safety at 6'3". Blitz coming way back from depth, and Cam Millen tried to roll away, got up the field in a hurry. Andrew Edson comes from the front side. Hicks the backside, chases him down, drops him for a sack. Was also covering the tight end out of the flat, or into the flat. Quarterback throws a pass way too far inside, right where Hicks is, jumps that route, takes it 37 yards for the touchdown. So Hicks, obviously, really showcasing that ability to be a playmaker. And then Smith-Wade, I mentioned his name. 7 tackles on the day, really read a tunnel screen to Torrey Horton, drove downhill in a hurry, does a good job, good route recognition, and the ability to make plays and wrap up in the open field. I thought for UTSA, they had some good things there in that 3-point loss to Houston. What you saw there was 16 carries for 103 yards and a touchdown from Kavorian Barnes. He's only a redshirt sophomore, 5'9", 220 pounds, physical runner, good burst to the second level. Sutton has some shiftiness to him, not a guy that's going to be a home run hitter by any means. He's going to come back and play for the Roadrunners next season, but was definitely a guy that was on my radar, especially now after the performance that he had there. Something that definitely caught my eye. And then if you're watching Houston, obviously Patrick Paul is the name that everyone kind of wants to gravitate to. Uses his length to his advantage as a pass protector. He's 6'7", 315. He also did a good job though pulling around. So you saw the athleticism. Needs to just watch that his hands don't get too high. I thought the hands at times were creeping up. Could end up, getting in illegal hands in the face at times. But I thought really the biggest thing that he was doing was working those hands, being able to use that length, shooting those hands underneath the pad level and playing with leverage, and really not allowing that defensive end to get up the field at all. You saw him set his feet and anchor. He's a guy that can be physical, and a lot of people are comparing him to Tyler Smith. I think that's a fair comparison. I think that's something that we'll continue to watch and see if that comparison really holds true as the season continues to move on for the Houston Cougars. Donovan Smith, kind of an up and down game, 6'5", 230, 233 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Left a couple of passes out there, some poor decisions throwing into double coverage, but kind of got bailed out there. This guy has the arm strength though. That's really the thing. You see the touch, throwing some fade passes, being able to throw the football outside the numbers. There was a post to Joshua Cobbs. Just really not enough air under the football. Puts the ball on a line. Needs to really watch that a little bit. Needs to put more air under the football. But he's a redshirt junior. Likely he'll be coming back to Houston for another season, but this was his first year after transferring in from Texas Tech. So I thought all in all it was a decent outing. Bama taking on Middle Tennessee 56-7. Jalen Milroe had a big game, 13 of 18 for 194 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 2 touchdowns on the ground. The only Alabama quarterback to be able to do 3 touchdowns, passing, 2 touchdowns running. I thought J.C. Latham, I was waiting to really see him have a breakout performance and really solidify his status as a top 10 pick. We didn't really see that. It wasn't great. It was just a solid performance. I thought he definitely used his length to his advantage, but hand placement was definitely a concern at times watching him. I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry, if we're talking about a guy that could solidify his status as a top 10 pick in this game, you're looking at a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry. So smooth, right on the hip of the receiver, up the field. The guy runs an out, so quick with the transition, just the perfect movement. Sure tackling on the receiver on a quick screen, fights through the block on the outside, only a 3-yard gain there. Then you saw the punt return ability, the burst, explosive plays as a punt returner as well. Kool-Aid McKinstry, he makes it look easy, and that's something that I think Bama fans have to be excited about. Dallas Turner didn't really get things going. I think that was the thing that I was expecting to see. Really, Middle Tennessee, there wasn't a need for him to do that. He looped around from the outside, left tackle and left guard, taking the defensive end, so he gets a free rush to the quarterback. Ultimately flushes Nicholas Vadiato from the pocket. I was waiting to see a little bit more from Zaylen Wood, Marley Cook. They both really kind of struggled to get anything going there against Bama. So we've been watching them in Conference USA play. Penn State and West Virginia. Olu Fashanu is an absolute freak. He was almost setting up and getting out there a little bit too quick. The foot speed is ridiculous for this guy, 6'6", 308. He's a top 5 pick, no doubt about it. I think he could go as high as number 3, but he's not getting past number 5. No sacks a season ago. On 281 pass block snaps per Pro Football Focus. Just so athletic. That was the thing that you saw. The kick slide was just so effortless. He'd start outside, inside rush by the linebacker, plants, fires back inside, easily walling him off. You see, just so athletic. He played basketball in high school as well, so you see some of that explosiveness. Just always got the depth that he needed in his kick slide. Anchors, being able to drop. Got well underneath the pad level of Sean Martin, the defensive end there for West Virginia. Couldn't really get much of a rush as well. Easy kick slide on the linebacker, Trey Lathan, who we absolutely engulfed. There was a play where he sat down with his hands inside on Martin. He tried to jump to knock a pass down. Didn't really get very high because of the ability to, was anchored and had that grip strength. There was one play where Sean Martin got the best of him. He got driven back a little bit on a bull rush. He tried to anchor and reset, but then Aller left the pocket, and that was when Martin was able to come off the block for a sack. So it really was more so as long as Aller had stayed in the pocket, there was no way he was getting by him. Once he vacated the pocket and took off, Martin was able to free himself and give chase and ultimately get the sack on the quarterback. But that was really the only blemish for Fashanu. But I thought Curtis Jacobs showed good athleticism at the linebacker spot. Got 10 tackles and a sack. Kind of delayed his blitz, hiding behind the right guard and the right tackle. Quarterback steps up, able to kind of slide right in, kind of a peekaboo, and taking him down. Keaton Ellis showing physicality coming downhill on a tunnel screen. So that was something that definitely jumped out as well. So I think Penn State, they're ranked number 7 in the country. Obviously, you got Aller, you got Singleton. Those are guys we're talking about next year's draft. Chop Robinson didn't really need to make too much of an impact. He's a guy that I'm going to continue to keep an eye out for as the season progresses because, look, he has a chance to be a first-round pick. Is he going to be another Odafe Owe who doesn't end up with a sack on the year? I think that's going to be a question mark. Or is he going to be another Arnold Ebiketie who racks up a ton of stats in his senior season? That's going to be the big question mark. North Carolina taking on South Carolina. Can we talk about Gene Chizik's defense? Holy cow. I think they made it a point to be more aggressive in just all the sacks that they were racking up. And nobody had a game better than K'Mon Rucker, though. With the 3 sacks and the 5.5 tackles for loss, 8 total tackles. Had a push-pull on the right tackle, got him off balance. Rip move, near sack on Spencer Rattler on one play. Quick penetration, sliding inside the right tackle to drop the running back behind the line of scrimmage. Drove the right tackle into the pocket on a bull rush. Comes off the block, able to flush Rattler from the pocket there. You saw the motor, you saw his ability, the rip moves, the physicality that he was playing with. 6'1", 265, just feels like a Pittsburgh Steeler. One of those edge rushers, a guy that I think probably could solidify his status as a potential 4th, 5th round pick. Cedric Gray, look, 145 tackles, 82 of those being solo at the inside linebacker spot, 6'2", 235. Speed going through the A-gap to hit Spencer Rattler right as he throws. Just needs to watch how high he hits him. You saw the throw to DK Joyner, breaking on the football, blowing up that play. Blitz coming off the edge. Running back block, uses the hands to kind of slap, then an arm over, gets up the field, goes by the quarterback. D-line gets a push up front, able to work back to the quarterback for a sack. Cedric Gray, another guy, look, he's one of the best inside linebackers in the country. I think he'll be a day 2 pick, 9 tackles, 1.5 sacks on the day there. Unfortunately, Devontae Walker, look, Tez Walker should be playing. Unfortunately, he's not. NCAA denied that appeal, which is a shame because he should be playing. I mean, he could be a go-to weapon there for Drake Maye. And I think he's really struggling to find that guy. I think Kobe Pacer may end up being that guy when it's all said and done. He's got 3 tight ends, though. Bryson Nesbitt, Kamari Morales, John Copenhaver, that I think are going to be critical for this offense. The freshman, Tyshawn Chapman, also looks like he has some juice there on the outside. Spencer Rattler, was under heavy pressure all game long. 30 of 39, 353 yards on the day. Didn't get a touchdown, but you saw the arm strength. You saw his ability to there was one play where the pocket was collapsing. He steps up and kind of uses a shovel pass to Xavier Leggett on a drag route. Turned up the field for 23 yards. Now, Xavier Leggett, holy cow, 9 catches, 178 yards. You saw 50-50 balls, elevating over the corner, high pointing, full extension, 38-yard pass play. Spencer Rattler, under pressure the play before, comes back to his quarterback to haul in a 21-yard pass. You saw crossing routes off of a bootleg, 17 yards, makes the catch. Physical, driving, continues that power, driving multiple defensive backs down the field for another 8 yards, total of 25 on the play. Go route on the sideline versus Tavon Holloway. I think he was playing nickel, and able to track, high point it, leap the ball, jumped into the corner as he was hauling it in for a 25-yard play. Drag route coming across, as I said, with Spencer Rattler stepping up. Showed the speed running away from guys, 23-yard gain. For a guy that big, at 6'3" and 227 pounds, he played a lot lighter than you would expect, a guy with his frame. So, he's a guy, the question is vertically, is he more of a vertical threat, or is he a guy that can come in and out of his breaks? A lot of it was down the field, and a lot of the 50-50 balls. So it's one of those things to where, is he a guy that's, is he an Alshon Jeffrey, or is he a guy that can be a lot more fluid with that size? I think the jury's still out, but still a phenomenal game, that's for sure. Then we got to move on to Michael Pratt's Tulane Green Wave taking on South Alabama. And already talked about the game that Pratt had, but how about Patrick Jenkins, the 6'2", 286-pound defensive tackle, had a couple of sacks in this game. He's playing over the nose, over the center on the 3rd down, really quick off the ball, chopped down, followed by a slap, goes through the A-gap, gets to the quarterback, very quick with that burst coming downhill. Then there was a 3rd and 9 play from the Tulane 11, working on the left guard. Uses his left hand to slap, right with an arm over, gets to the hole before a rip to clear it, bends, shows good ankle flexion, bending around, getting to Carson Bradley there in the pocket. I think Patrick Jenkins, one of the more underrated defensive tackles, a guy that people really aren't talking about. And frankly, I wish they would, because he's a guy that it was a lot of fun to watch during that game. Yam Banks didn't really make too much of an impact in the game, did have a forced fumble, but he's a guy that I think, anytime I get a chance to talk about South Alabama, Yam Banks is going to be the guy I'm talking about. 6'1", 208. He can line up in coverage. He can play the deep safety. He had 6 interceptions a year ago. He's a guy that I think will be playing on Sundays. Has really good size, good range. UCLA. This was a tough game for them, taking on Coastal Carolina in the Rose Bowl, but they did get it done. 27-13 final. Carson Steele. He had 78 yards on the ground, had 4 catches for 20 yards. This dude, we know the strength, 650-pound squat. A guy that's going to drop the pad level and run over you. We did see him plant, make a guy miss in the hole, and then take off for 24 yards. He's not going to run away from you by any means, but a guy that is going to show the power. He can make one cut and really make you miss. J. Michael Sturdivant. I think he's a redshirt sophomore. 6'3", 205. Transfer from Cal, was a freshman All-American in 2022. Strong after the catch with the ball in his hands, but he also has speed. Go route, ran right by the corner. Dante Moore, the fabulous freshman, put it right on him, tracked it well, hauled it over his shoulder, took it to the house, 62 yards for the touchdown. 5 catches, 136 yards, and a score. J. Michael Sturdivant is going to be one of those names that could sneak up on you as a playmaker, but the guy that we really have to talk about for UCLA is Laiatu Latu. The speed that this guy has is ridiculous. 10.5 sacks a season ago. And look, if the medicals check out, because I know the concussion nearly cost him his career. He did retire there at Washington before going to UCLA and playing. But if the medicals check out, he could be the number 2 edge rusher. Could be a top 10 pick. Speed off the edge, uses the hands so well to swat. The hands are so quick and they're violent. And he would attack the hands, extends, rip through, turns the corner in a hurry. He'll line up a defensive end, put his hand in the dirt if he needs to. There was one play where the left tackle didn't even get his hands on him. Good jump off the ball, was already kind of angling to get to the edge after a couple of steps. Left tackle kind of puts his hand out, uses that inside hand to slap it down. Quick slap with the right arm. Hands were just so fast. Gets to the quarterback in a hurry. Starts off the edge on the outside, plants, crosses the face of the left tackle to get an inside rush. Really all 3 sacks I think were in the fourth quarter, if I remember correctly. I know that they were in the second half, but I want to say that it was the fourth quarter. 3rd sack of the game. He was so quick off the ball. You saw a slap and a rip, bends around the edge, knocks the ball free from Grayson McCall as he was trying to step up in the pocket. He was just a guy that was wreaking havoc all day long, and a guy, like I said, the speed, the physicality. He's a guy that should be in that conversation in the top 10. 6'4", 265. I just hope, like I said, that the medicals check out for him. Grayson McCall, 271 yards, touchdown, did have a couple of interceptions. He's the only 3-time Sun Belt Player of the Year. Could be a 4-time. And, you saw the touch off the 50-50 balls down the field. I thought the touch throws, he was hitting some of those. He was tough, man. He was taking a lot of shots in the pocket. Some ill-advised throws that got him into trouble. That's where the picks came from. The athleticism at times he tried to create it and do a little bit too much. The lack of arm strength, you do see that. Ball would hang up at times. There was one play where Sam Pinckney, his receiver, made a huge play, 29 yards down the field. It kind of hung up, which allowed Pinckney to work inside of the corner and make the play. But I know that wasn't really drawn up that way because it just hung up. It was so underthrown, and Pinckney was able to make a play. And speaking of Pinckney, holy cow, 9 catches, 139 yards, and a score. This guy was winning 50-50 balls, elevating over corners. Look, he was making plays in front of Devin Kirkwood, wasn't playing tight enough, makes the catch, muscles forward for first downs. I mentioned that play where he was able to kind of use that inside hand to push the cornerback outside before making the catch and getting down the field. Runs a fade route for a 9-yard touchdown, high points it, adjusts to the football in the air, leaps away from the corner as he's hauling it in, and then he goes down so that the corner's not able to even get a hand on the football as well, turns away from him. Ran a quarter route, able to separate from the corner. They had cover 2 with the safety over the top, able to catch the ball over his shoulder, extending for it, made the catch before going out for another 18-yard play. I thought Sam Pinckney had one hell of a game, and he's a receiver that we have to be talking about there in the Sun Belt for sure. I mentioned the BYU game, and Kingsley Suamataia, or Suamataida, I was excited because this is the first chance I really got to watch him, not just watching some of the clips and watching some of the All-22. I actually got to sit down and watch a full game. 6'6", 325. This is the guy, you saw the athleticism. That was a thing that was on display. So easy with the kick slide, moves really well, very patient with his hands. Hand placement would get a little bit too high towards the helmet. There were times where he was whiffing guys in space, though. Didn't really block anyone at times. Extending too far, trying to reach for the linebacker on one play. Ended up falling to the ground. Looked to use a long arm, ended up getting up into the face mask and was called for a penalty. It just seemed like he was kind of out of sorts. Like, he didn't really want to be playing Sam Houston. It just felt like he was half-assing it a little bit. Because you saw the athleticism, you saw that, okay, this is the guy that's going to get the job done regardless, and he's kind of outmatching the guys that he's going up against. But I thought he even kind of took for granted, Chris Murray, the defensive end, shoots his hands into it, actually got into his chest, and kind of did a push-pull to get the edge. Ultimately, as he's turning the corner, had to grab him for a hold. And, I think with Kingsley, the athleticism, he's one of the more athletic tackles in this year's draft. He just didn't show it in this game. And, I think it's uncharacteristic of him. But at the same time, it's one of those things to where if he starts putting tape like this together week in and week out, the team's really going to start questioning his motor and that desire. Tyler Batty on the defensive side, 6'6", 275 pounds, and a guy that had 7 pressures in the game. 2 hands to the chest of the left tackle to separate and rip through and get to the quarterback as he's throwing. Stout against the run, arm over, gets inside, drops the running back, uses those hands so well to get off blocks. I thought that was something that really jumped out to me. And then Jacob Robinson, 5'11", 170 pounds. This was a guy that had a couple of really nice plays on the football. Lined up at the goal line, 2nd and goal from the 6, in the slot. Receiver runs a fade. Quarterback releases the football, and he undercuts the route, elevates, makes the catch. He was kind of had his heels on the goal line and really just kind of sat back and kind of just read the play, ultimately makes the pick. Physical down the sideline with the receiver. Really wanted to use those hands, kind of using his arm to disrupt the play, but that physicality was kind of a question mark with just how physical he was playing. Bail technique, eyes in the backfield, read the comeback route, broke on the ball with outside leverage, making a diving interception. Really kind of a one-arm interception, one-arm play. It's kind of extended that left arm out for the pick. Thought that was really a nice play on the football. Rutgers against Northwestern. Watch this game, 24-7 win, and Rutgers has a couple of guys that we should be interested in for the draft. Aaron Lewis, 6'5", 260. He's only a junior. You saw the physicality. There's power in his hands, speed to power, driving guys back into the backfield. Really didn't make too much of an impact. Had just one tackle, had a quarterback, one hit on the quarterback. But you saw rip moves. You saw his guy, his ability to muscle guys into the backfield. He just didn't really get home. Max Melton, the corner, 6 foot, 190 pounds, the junior. He jams the receiver at the line of scrimmage in press coverage. Quarterback rolling out, tried to throw it to one of those receivers. There were two kind of in that area. I don't know if they were setting up a screen or exactly what was going on, but the quarterback got pressured. Leaping interception to give the Rutgers the ball at the Northwestern 28-yard line. And then on the offensive side, really one of the best stories is Holland Pierce. This dude is absolutely ginormous. He's 6'8", 345. When he came to Rutgers, he was 455 pounds. Actually started at Fork Union Military Academy, was that big. Worked his way down, lost over 130 pounds from high school. Started his career as a preferred walk-on. This guy absolutely engulfs guys in pass protection. He's a guy that you could really pull for, want to continue to watch his development. He took the defensive end, Richie Haggerty, on a run play, really turned him from the pocket, squares his shoulders to the sideline, and just absolutely had the hands underneath. Needs to watch his pad level. You saw some stiffness in his movements, but he was able to pick a defensive end up on the inside rush, showed that he can move laterally and make that play. Kicking out defensive ends in pass protection, just driving him away from the line of scrimmage and driving him away from the pocket. He was a guy that was a lot of fun to watch on the offensive side. So, look, Rutgers, they get their first win there in Piscataway. And there are some guys that you should be tuning in to watch Scarlet Knights football when we're talking about the next level. I mentioned Oregon State. We've already talked about DJ just a little bit. Damian Martinez is one cut and go running back, 6 foot, 232 pounds. But the offensive line play, that was really what I thought was a lot of fun to watch. And they're two different players. Joshua Gray is 6'4", 288. It's all about being light on your feet. Easy knee bender, hands under the pad level, drives him away from the pocket. You see him generating movement, leaning on the defensive end. Even when he gets beaten by the end, has that recovery to get back down the field, gets those hands under, driving the guy away from the pocket. You see the change of direction as well. And then Taliese Fuaga, the 6'6", 334-pounder, the right tackle. This dude is so strong at the point of attack. Uses those hands, the violent punch. There was one play where he put this punch on the defensive end, and he basically took 2 or 3 steps back after those hands exploding into him. But you see the quick feet as well. So when he has the quick feet coupled with the upper body strength, he clears his man out and just really dominates. And I thought that was really a lot of fun to watch. DJ had a lot of time on a 30-yard pass play to Jeremiah Noga, and it was interesting to watch both of these guys. With Fuaga on that play, I think DJ must have had 5 or 6 seconds. But he showed off the power in his hand. He shoves the defensive end. He's trying to get the edge. Active hands, power to shove him away, and ultimately just kind of shoves him down to finish the block. Versus Joshua Gray, slides inside to pick up the defensive end on the inside, inside move. He tries to get back outside, sits down and slides with them. Very quick feet, change of direction to then drive him down the field. It was just one of those things to where you saw the speed and the power between the two, left tackle, right tackle. I think Joshua Gray ultimately is going to kick inside the guard at the next level. I think that's really going to be the big thing that we're going to see there. And then for Florida State, can we talk about Keon Coleman? This dude is my wide receiver too. 6'4", 215 pounds. I know I shouldn't be waiting until over an hour into the podcast to be talking about Keon Coleman. 6'4", 215. Played basketball for Tom Izzo at Michigan State, so 2-sport star there for the Spartans. This guy was attacking the football, looked like a basketball player at the receiver position. Runs a fade from the slot. Safety Major Burns 10 yards off the ball, eats up the cushion. High points the football against the 6'2 safety, attacks the ball in the air like a rebound. Strong hands, got vertical on the outside. At the stem, kind of uses those arms, extends into the body of the corner, Deuce Chestnut. The transfer from Syracuse, gets inside leverage, has a step on him, tracks it well over the shoulder, makes a play for 40 yards, 10-yard touchdown to the wide side, fade, keeps his hand on the corner, and then elevates, adjusting the football, thrown on the back shoulder. Also showed late hands, so the corner couldn't really make a play on the football. That dude's an absolute stud. And then Jared Verse. Got to talk about Jared Verse. Jared Verse, the speed rush coming off the edge, beats Will Campbell, chops down on the hands, tremendous bend, turning the corner, flattens out to the quarterback, ultimately hits Jaden Daniels, hits the arm for a forced fumble, ultimately called an incompletion because it looks like the arm might have been coming forward, but there's a reason why he had a 17% pressure rate. last year, according to Pro Football Focus. And then one other name to mention is Braden Fisk, 6'5", 297 from Western Michigan. Just so stout at the point of attack. That was one of the things that you saw, the low center of gravity, holding the point, taking away the running lanes. But you saw the burst coming up the field as well. Splitting the left guard and the center. Ultimately, the first step quickness, you saw that time and time again. Sliding off the right shoulder of the center, holding the point, extending those arms while engaged, able to wrap up the running back Noah Kane for no gain. So I think his presence there at defensive tackle is going to also be something to keep an eye out for. Clemson and Duke. We talked about the quarterback play. We talked about R.J. Oben and his ability. I thought the linebackers, Jeremiah Trotter, showed really good lateral quickness, his ability to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. I thought Barrett Carter disappeared at times. I thought Andrew Makuba would come downhill and make some plays. Physicality to his game, that was something that you definitely saw from him. Rukororo and Tyler Davis, I thought, were average. They didn't play up to their ability, so that was really surprising to see. I thought that one thing, Will Putnam, the center, actually played really well. He could be a top 5 center in this year's draft class, but it was just kind of a ho-hum performance there for Clemson. Duke really took it to him. I think Clemson was kind of shell-shocked, and they never really snapped out of it. And Duke, yeah, they're for real. Tune in whenever Wallace Wade Stadium is rocking, because the Cameron Crazy's moving there. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Tom Luganville on the broadcast and company, they wanted to term them the Wallace Wackos, and they were already getting ready, lining up, getting ready to storm the field, and it was a party there. I think Mike Elko really has something going. I think there's something that can really be sustained. So I think that's something that's going to be intriguing to keep an eye out for as well. So that's everything that I got to see there in week 1, everyone that I got to watch. Week 2, there are a lot of games that I'm going to want to keep an eye out for as well. Just looking at things, obviously Colorado against Nebraska, can they do that at home? I think you're going to see Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter and company have a big game once again. Ole Miss taking on Tulane. I think Michael Pratt going up against the SEC. Let's see just how good this quarterback is. Patrick Jenkins getting after Jackson Dart as well. I think that's something to keep an eye out for sure. That'll be a fun game to watch. Oklahoma taking on SMU. Want to see what that defense can do against an SMU offense that wants to air it out. Obviously, the game at night is going to be Bama and Texas. What can Texas do? Can they slow things down? Quinn Ewers, the quarterback, much more experienced than Jalen Milroe. Can that line put pressure on the quarterback, on Milroe? I'm looking at Jalen Ford. I think he's going to have a big game. And then, with Texas offensively, who is Kool-Aid McKinstry going to be covering there? Is it going to be A.D. Mitchell? Is it going to be Xavier Worthy? That's something that I'm going to be curious about. Can Dallas Turner turn things up and get after the quarterback? That's going to be an interesting. I think Texas has a really good shot to beat Bama this year. I think Bama, needs a good test to really see where they're at. Wisconsin taking on Washington State. I'm going to be curious to see how this game plays out. I think Washington State has a chance to win, but Washington State's going to have to slow down Braylon Allen. That's going to be the thing that I think if Wisconsin wants to win, it's going to be on the shoulders of Braylon Allen. Stanford and USC to kind of close things out. The night game, the nightcap, if you will. And Caleb Williams is going to have to watch out for David Bailey. If David Bailey's lining up against Jonah Monheim, there's going to be at least 2 to 3 plays where he's going to be coming free. Caleb Williams is going to have to show that he can make plays and avoid that. They're also going to have to showcase on defensively the ability to stop Benjamin Jurasic. They've got some bigger receivers as well, so the cornerback play really has to be stepped up and elevated. I think the Trojan defensive line has gotten better. I think that's really the big thing to note. Bear Alexander, only a sophomore. Anthony Lucas, only a sophomore. So these guys are going to be back. I think Keon Bars, a guy that is a senior, the transfer from Arizona, I expect to see him play stout defense up front. Jack Sullivan similarly. And then Jamil Mohammed, bringing that speed coming off the edge. I think that's something that I'm going to be looking forward to. And really, you've got an inexperienced quarterback like Ashton Daniels on the back end of the defense. Can a guy like Kalen Bullock bait him into making a mistake and making him pay? I mean, this guy, look, he has the range over the top, and just watch that Cal game. Just when